welcome back to the reading rules. You might be wondering why I'm wearing these boxing gloves. Well, hopefully in a few minutes it'll all make a lot of sense to you. First, I'd like to start, as always, with the centering process. If you'd like to join me, I welcome you. Center yourself in yourself. Invoke your inner counselor. I got this. Clarify our class intention. We got this. And if you'd like, you can ask for Spirit's assistance. Okay, thank you. As always, my intention is to be instrumental in any way that I can to help erase illiteracy and further literacy. Thank you so much for joining me. And today we're going to start by reviewing rules 1 and 2, which we went over in the first two videos, lesson 1 and 2. Write that card and character. Hopefully you know this is the sneaky E, and the rule is when there's an E at the end, the vowel says its name. Rule number 1. Once again, when there's an E at the end, the vowel says its name. Sneaky E. All right, so a couple word cards to review. Rule number 1. Drape 1. Blaze 1. Frozen 1. Flame 1. Throne 1. And flute 1. Okay, that's rule number 1. Moving on to rule number 2, quick review. And if you remember, rule number 2 is a 2-vowel rule. Very common rule as rule number 1. So hopefully you remember the rule for this. Rule number 2 is when 2 vowels play a game, the first one says its name, and the second one stays quiet. Once again, when 2 vowels play a game, the first one says its name, and the second one stays quiet. All right, let's go over some of those cards. Okay, we have steal 2. Release 2. Grease 2. Grain 2. Oatmeal 2. And goat 2. Okay, as always, if either rule number 1 or 2 was difficult and you weren't reading at the pace that I was reading, then please go back and review. You really want to get those rules ingrained and automatic so that the word, you can just read it like that. Some people might be wondering, and some of you have asked, what's the reason for the colors and the numbers and the characters? And the reason behind that is really what makes the reading rules so different than other programs. Most other programs out there use visual techniques to help you somehow internalize or memorize those difficulties in the English language. The reading rules uses what we call multiple learning modalities. Having a little trouble talking today. Multiple learning modalities. So learning modalities are ways we learn, different methods that our brain uses to learn. They can be visual, mathematical, auditory, through your ears, kinesthetic, which means, handling things, picking them up, really textile type of learning. There's also natural, which is out in nature we learn. That is one of the areas that I haven't enhanced, but I plan to. But the reading rules uses the colors for the visual, the mathematical and spatial access through the numbers. And you will see later on in the program why this is so important, the colors and the numbers and the auditory little links with sayings and even the songs that we use. So the reason behind it is that later on you're going to see in the kit that has over 500 flashcards, we're going to move from those one syllable words to what we call multi-syllabic words, like words like this: decelerate. And just by looking at it, you should be able to see that there are multiple colors. 1, 2, 3, 4 different colors in this word. And you don't know these rules yet, although you do know rule number 1 is at the end there. If you look at that part of the word, it's 8, right? And there's an E at the end, the vowel says its name. But what you will be able to do later, as you know, all my first graders were able to do, I mean, that's how young you can accomplish this, is be able to read the word, decelerate, and be able to then say the rules, 20, 7, 14, and 1. So that's why it really becomes important. You might be saying to yourself, well, you know, books aren't colored and text isn't colored, so how in the world, you know, I'm going to be able to, how is this going to transfer? And, you know, magic is the best way for me to explain it, is eventually you no longer need those colors anymore. It just really is a way of ingraining and helping the learner just get a strong foundation and solidifying that learning, those phonemes, those sounds of the English language. And later on, you know, they're not needed anymore. So moving on back to the boxing gloves. We're now ready to start rule number 3. And rule number 3 is a rule that fights. And that's why we're using the boxing gloves today. So rule number 3, here's the card. And you can see it, it's a little cute little O and U. And the letters O and U, they're in the boxing ring there and got their boxing gloves on. The green rule, this is rule number 3. They fight. Okay, so really simple rule, O and U, fight. Rule number 3. So let's say it one more time. Rule number 3, O and U, fight. Okay, well, what does that mean they fight? Well, when they fight, they hit each other, and when they're hitting each other, you hear ow, 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 right? So different, much different than the other vowel rules. This one actually supersedes, takes precedence over, is more powerful than, I say in class, than those other vowel rules, because when O and U are together, that is the rule, they fight. So sounding this word out, we would say ow, mow, ow, hear the ow? Mouth, 3. So, you know, again, we're not using rule number 2 here, it's the green rule. Remember that. O and U always fight. Ow. Mouth, 3. Pouch, 3. About, 3. Blouse, 3. Slouch, 3. Stout, 3. Okay, try this one. Couch, 3. A little bigger word here. Thousand, 3. Grout, 3. And spouse, 3. Shout, 3. Spout, 3. And finally, couch, 3. Okay, that is rule number 3. So remember, when you see that O and U together, they fight always. When you hear them fight, you hear ow. So thank you so much for joining me once again. I would love to hear from you, anyone using the program, any difficulties, successes, any feedback you have for me will help me greatly. I need your feedback to help me further the program. You can reach me at thereadingrules@gmail.com, The Reading Rules Facebook, or The Reading Rules Twitter. Thank you and have a wonderful day.